Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome back to Downsizing Roadmap Podcast. Have you ever found yourself as the keeper of all of your family's memories?
Or the accidental keeper of all your family's memories. That's where I'm at.
Exactly. If that is you, this is the episode for you. We are talking about, how you can honor your family's past and keep that legacy without becoming the storage unit for it.
Yep. I'm Jody Roscoe.
I'm Heather Fisher.
And I think that I am this person right now, the storage unit at the moment. And I think that came about, honestly, because when we were cleaning out the house, sometimes it's too much to do the sentimental stuff with all of the other stuff. For us, it was definitely too much stuff. There was so much stuff that had not been dealt with. And so we just ended up putting things into the car. And my uncle's cars, it was like, okay, this is something that needs to be taken a little more care with, but we don't have time to do that right now. So let's just kind of put it somewhere. And then for me, that time frame, it's still in that place. It's still kind of in that storage room in my house, because for a while I was too upset to look at it. And now I'm closer to not being able to be too upset to look at it. But now I have to figure out what that process is going to look like to get through it, and what of it that we need to keep. And so this episode is for me.
Yeah, I think that this situation can happen quickly sometimes, like it did with you. And that tends to happen when someone passes away and there is a lot going on.
So much.
I mean, you're dealing with grief first and foremost, and then you're dealing with timelines that come up if there's a house to sell or a place to be moved out of, attorneys to meet with, funerals to plan, like all of that is happening at once, and it's completely overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so just like in your case, the boxes of the harder stuff just get moved wherever they're going to go, and they typically land there. I think it can also happen slowly over time, and it tends to happen maybe to the person who is more of the sentimental keeper. Mm-hmm. So they know the stories more because they've researched or asked, and mm-hmm. they've kept the things from various family members because it tugged at their heartstrings, but they suddenly find themselves with an overload mm-hmm. because people learn that that's their role, whether they wanted it or not. Like you said, accidentally, they may have slipped into that, and they become the place where they keep the old photos from long ago people. They keep the books. They keep the heirlooms.
Papers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yes, some people, that was Mom's, I can't let that go until everything, is piled up and it's too much to deal with. So, I'm in that place where I need to start dealing with it. And some of it is just, it is going to take some time, and because it's the stories and you want to not lose the stories. So I have a giant box of letters that my grandma wrote, and, I don't even know what they say. I don't even know who they're to. I don't know if there's interesting, important stories in there, or if they're just, happy birthday to you cards that just say that and nothing else. And it's, not important, but it feels like it's things that we should go through because she saved it.
It's a much more involved process because it does take more time to dig through and find the really treasured items. It's not like a box of Tupperware and you can open it and say, oh, looks like this whole box is Tupperware. I don't need this garage sale pile, and move on. It's a piece by piece of paper or letters, photos fall into that category. It can often be time-consuming and emotional, which leads to more of that energy drain that you can do less at a time.
Yeah. My mom always also really loved history, and so she was trying to trace back our lineage, and she had all kinds of data around what that looks like, and she got to the point where we could be daughters of the revolution and all of that. So that was super important to her. And now that that's all combined, I have to figure out what I'm going to do with that information.
I think that's common, Jody, in families, that there's somebody in the line that loves having this role, and they are intentionally collecting more stories like your mom, and they're intentionally loving every detail of the family history, and it's not a burden to them. They're adding on to that because they love it. And then the shift happens when that person is gone, and the next person, you in this case, you carry that guilt of knowing how much your mom loved it, but not necessarily wanting that full role that she had. And so I think this will resonate with a lot of people that find themselves in that shift of not the same personality and downsizing personality as the person they inherited all of this from, but there's a love and a grief and a want to honor that person, that you have to find that balance.
You couldn't have said it better. That is exactly how it feels. And the amount of stuff, I think that the stories are interesting, and I need them much more concise than what they are. Yeah. And so that may be something that I need to spend time on, or maybe I can get somebody to help me spend some time on that. Maybe some people in our family can help, we can do that together. I think that would be interesting to have the family come over and look at all the pictures, because looking at them yourselves, when I was going through pictures when my mom passed away to find pictures of my mom, I kept finding all kinds of pictures of my cousins when they were little, and all kinds of funny things and memories, and I'm just snapping those pictures that are terrible quality, and just being able to do that, if you have family that can do that with you, I think is great, because again, it's all about the stories, and so it's more fun to remember the stories together than it is to just be remembering the stories by yourself.
Yeah, and I think importantly, at that moment, enjoying the moment of sharing, but then letting that be a release. And then at the same time, not packing those same photos back up. That is the share, and then it's okay to let that go, because you had that, not for every photo, but to condense them down. Yeah. You don't want to do that and then pack them all back up.
Right. So in that, we had an episode on Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff. And Matt was talking in his book about photos, and he said it really should be like 2 boxes worth of photos. Like, you should be able to pick them up and take them with you. Yeah. So really, really editing them down. And sometimes it feels like you are dishonoring people when you're throwing away photos of their image, even though you have hundreds and hundreds of them, or maybe thousands of them on your phone. It feels like, if physical pictures, it for sure feels like, even if it's a bad picture, it just kind of feels a little bit like weird to throw that away. But I think if you really try to curate it down to beautiful pictures that you would want to frame, then that will get you down to those couple boxes, and ones that you could make a photo book, a beautiful book out of, and every picture of that person would be an amazing picture of them.
Yeah, and that's something that if you've got additional family members, that's the thing to do together. Curate down to that collection, and then make a book for whoever wants one, and then that's what you have. Pulling that in, I think sometimes there can be some resentment in families if the person who's the organized one, or the planner, or the sentimental one starts getting overloaded with, well, you do that
You should keep
for
this
us.
because
you
I
should
have too
keep
much.
it because it
But
was
it has to be
mom's.
kept.
Yeah, you should keep this because it was mom's. No, I don't want it. You should keep it. There's
Trying to pass that guilt on.
yeah, there's that dynamic that happens sometimes, and I think if that's the place you're coming from, where you're ready to make some decisions on it, but you're getting the guilt from other family members, we can talk through some strategies on that as well. I think the biggest strategy is set a deadline. Thank you.
Well,
if you love it, come pick it up by this day.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I think we hear this in so many families. It is, I don't want it, but you should keep it because it was mom's. But I'm not, I don't have room, or I'm whatever reasons they are. And the answer to that is, if they don't want it, you don't have to want it. Like
that's okay.
They can't be putting that on you to say, oh, you must keep it if they don't want to keep it. If they want to keep it, then great. If you have somebody in your family who wants to be the keeper of things, let them be the keeper of things.
Yeah. And let people know when you have that time and you have reached that point where you're ready to go through, just put the word out. I'm going through the family boxes. If there's anything you'd like, let me know by this date. Or
we're set a date and we'll all do it, have dinner and we'll go through, some boxes or whatever that looks like. Maybe, you have once a month until that's gone, family dinner until you guys have gotten through it, whatever that looks like. But set some kind of a parameter around it and some kind of deadline around it. And if it's something we can read or look at and say, oh, that was great, and then let it go. Perfect. If somebody wants to keep it, that's their choice. I think where you end up, I think the people who love it might have too much stuff in their house, but they still are surrounded by passion and things that they love.
Right.
And I think this just becomes more of a problem when it's the people that get it more thrust upon them instead of,
choosing it themselves. Yeah. Or working through inheriting from that lover of it and working through that bit of guilt versus honoring.
Right.
Can bring up the emotional layers.
Right. And it's usually the oldest child?
The daughter.
The daughter.
Yeah. The most organized person.
The most sentimental person.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one. Yeah. It's not always the oldest. That's the most sentimental one.
Yeah.
But
back to those personalities.
Yeah. And it will snowball, which is what has happened to me. But it's okay. I think they're all just, that's sitting there waiting for me to make that time to look at it.
Yeah. And it can be done in small pieces. Mm-hmm. It's not an all or nothing. It's just a progress.
Right.
I think that people feel fear of being the one to break the chain. If there's been something passed down for multiple generations, it almost, sometimes items lose the story or the feeling around it, and it's just, it's been in our family for generations,
right? And
that's the only story.
Yeah.
And that's okay to break that chain, because that's not a legacy, that's just old.
Right. Like we talk about this, I'll say, like, if I need a side table and I go to Target to get one because I just need one, I'm having a party and so they need to put their drinks on it.
Yeah.
And, do my great grandkids need to keep my Target table just because I bought it? Like, there is no story around it. It's just,
Yeah, but I think we find that, and I can certainly think of things in my own family, and we hear that in clients. Well, it's been in the family for generations. Okay, whose was it? Why was it important? What do you love about it? Well, what makes you happy about it?
What I think that's doing is, we talk about that psychology of you owning something, and then that makes it, you feel like it has more value. Well, I think it just magnifies when it has rolled down from other people who have owned it, and it just turns into this like giant multiplier of like, oh my gosh, all these people have owned it and I should own it, and I don't even know what it is anymore. Like, or what to do with it. My grandparents had all these tools that are cool, but like some of them, you don't even know what they do anymore. Like, let alone the story is that they're all the tools like together and they're old, and that's cool in its own way. But some of them, you don't even know what they are anymore.
Yeah, and it needs to be cool to the person where they're residing now. You know, it's okay.
Yes.
If that's not your thing, to say this made it 3 generations, am I allowed to let it end with me? Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So try to work through those feelings and decide whether you're keeping it out of love or obligation.
Yeah.
And if it's strictly obligation, then that's those times to offer it to whoever it would be appropriate to offer it to with a deadline, and then release it without guilt.
Yeah, like I'm thinking about things like, a butter churn or, like things like this. Like, it's so cool. That's cool. Grandma used to use that to churn butter. But if that's not your style and you aren't going to put it out and it's just going to sit in the basement, like, what are you doing with that?
Yes. There is a butter churn in my parents' basement, I think, or there was for years. It was on the
right. It was grandma's.
It was on the fireplace, hearth.
Yeah,
for years. I'm not sure whatever happened to it, but it might be in the basement.
We had a wooden. It hung in our house. It was a wooden. Cabbage, shredded cabbage. So there was a box that went back and forth and a very kind of rusty old looking
grater, whatever.
Yeah, a giant grater that would grate big habits of cabbage, and that hung on our wall, and it was my great grandpa's, and whatever.
Yeah,
it's just funny, but that its time has passed. I guess when I was saying tools and things like that, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah. So I looked up the word legacy just to find the actual definition of it, and the definition is the long-lasting impact of particular events, actions, etc. that took place in the past or of a person's life. So I think that for things to remain a legacy moving forward, for things to be the right things to stay in a family for generations, you can't lose sight of that word impact. Is this something that is continuing to impact your family by being the tray that you bring out at the holidays every year? Is it the thing that, you sit around on Christmas Eve and read this story together in the book that, is been passed down? Is it whatever that is, fill in the blank, is it continuing to have an impact on your family, or is it just stuff that's old? Mm-hmm. And so that difference right there, when I read that definition, when I looked that up, that felt like the key question to ask. If it's just in a box, or it's just there because it's been there a long time or passed down multiple generations, but there's no continuing impact, those are not the things to keep.
Because there's no more story. And the story, we only have stories around things that we're living with closely, using, whatever that looks like. The tray that does come out at the holidays, if there's one that's in the, storage area that is not ever coming out, there will be no more stories for the next generation, and therefore it will be totally meaningless to the next generation.
Yeah, I have items from my grandparents' house, things that we chose. My grandparents have been gone for many years, and those items, because of why I have those couple of things, they're important to me and I love and treasure them. But if someone came up to me on the street and, introduced themselves and said, "Hey, I've been hanging on to this, this used to be in your grandparents' kitchen, and it's not something that I've seen in 25 years. It's not something I remember from my store. It's just something." And I think that happens with just boxes of stuff.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't take that. You wouldn't be like, "Oh, well, because it was
to put that on a shelf in my living room.
Because it was my grandpa's, I'll take it." I mean, that isn't a dynamic that
Yeah.
we would jump at, but
Yeah.
it just follows us down that train.
Yeah. I think memories are only created when you're using it and caring about it and seeing it daily, and telling the story over and over again, right?
Yeah. Just hearing that story in your head and enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have, that's probably the easiest place to start, honestly, is the stuff that's stored because you've already told yourself in not so many words that it's not something that needs to be part of your everyday.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're never pulling it out.
You've already made that decision. Now you're just keeping it because you can't make that final decision to let it go because you somehow have some level of guilt around it, probably. So
Yeah.
Guilt's not a gift, right?
That's right. So if you're starting and you are starting to go through these things to decide what to do, the 4 categories, not different than what we've talked about many times, but there will be things that you do want to keep. They're irreplaceable, they're already labeled, they're meaningful, they're those things that you are honoring by how you've treated them up to this point. There are things you can digitize, just photos of items, and turn that into a memory book or some other form of keeping it without keeping the item. This is a big one. Share that, and if there's no recipients wanting the things, that's okay. They don't need to be guilted into it either, but that's the key, that it's okay to release.
Yeah,
things.
ask. I mean, always ask, because you don't know if they have memories around something that you don't, right? There might be some candy dish that they remember and you don't, or some table or something that there's a reason that they have memories around it. But don't be upset if they don't want it. If you're already saying you don't want it and they don't want it, then, again, we don't need to pass that guilt on. It's just okay to let it go.
Yep. And then, as always, either donating, recycling, selling items, or just sometimes it's a discard of broken or unusable items.
Yeah. And so use labels as you sort that. Tell the story about the things. If there are things that you're keeping, why are you keeping them? And really, is that a legacy of that person that you're keeping them from? Or if it's your own stuff, is it a legacy of you, for you? Like, when you look at yourself, what is it that you want people to remember about you, or what of your loved ones do you want to remember about them? And if you write down those things, what is that legacy? And then does this fit inside of one of those?
Yeah.
Does this make you, maybe they were really into music and you have their guitar and that's super amazing to you. And so that is totally a legacy. That was their thing. And it reminds you of that. So
I think that goes back to, multiple episodes we've done, but that, putting words to what that legacy is and really thinking about it and coming up with a plan. Write down those 5 words. I know you've said before about your grandma that cooking would be one of those. Those are your parameters and your rules. Narrow that down to 3 to 5 of this. And if it fits in those, then that's a starting point for the maybe items. Mm-hmm. But if it's not even surrounding those top words about the person, it's not important. It's the table from Target.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, and if you have photos and you want to keep those photos, make sure you're writing on the back of them, or if you don't want to damage them, use a sticky note or do something to say who's in the photo, where it was taken, as much as you know the date, like whatever it is around that, so that because we just did another episode about photos, and I have a ton of them, and I am 100% sure that there will be photos that we don't know who they are anymore. And at that point, we don't need to keep them, unfortunately, because there is no story around them when there's just people in there that you don't know. But if you don't want to lose those stories, then it's your job to tell the stories.
Yeah.
Both verbally now and also write that down.
Yeah, I think that sets up perfectly for revisiting the idea of, a memory sorting event or day with your family because you tackle so many things all at once. It's help so you're not overwhelmed with it by yourself, but other people from different generations or different interactions may be able to fill in some of those gaps on the photos you don't know, and disperse them appropriately. If you've got younger generations there with you, they hear the stories in that room with the older generations as you're sorting it all, and then at the end of the day it's flushed out to, we've got a pile where we don't know who they weren't important. We've got what everybody wants to keep for their own memories, and you've shared a great evening or day doing that as a family. I think that's the key. If you can figure out the best way to get everybody in the same room, it turns it into much more of a memory instead of a burden.
Yeah. And it feels warm, and it feels like you're reminiscing, and you can have those memories together. I think that's
which is the objective,
right?
Of the things and the photos, so,
right?
Yeah,
right. So, I need to plan that for my family. So, that's that is on the books for me.
Well, hopefully we're motivating lots of listeners and you, and
I'll just have to keep listening to this one.
We'll hear all about all the events everybody had to sort down through their family legacy.
So sometimes you end up with, collections of things, dishes, all kinds of stuff. So my grandma gave me her teacups, and it was like 50 or 60 of them, and that was too much for me. But she always had high tea. Like, they loved to have tea with my kids, and they would do the whole thing. They would make tea and biscuits and all the things. And so my kids each took a teacup, and I took a teacup that was our favorite ones. And so we can have tea and remember them, and you can, break that down. Don't always feel like you have to keep everything.
Yeah.
We can still have that same process and think about them without keeping 50 teacups.
Yeah, I think that is always the way to go, because then it makes it something you can use and put out and enjoy versus store.
Same thing with my mom's Christmas dishes. I just kept the salad plates. So when I set the Christmas table, I have white dishes. Her salad plates are poinsettias. And so if you put those on top of the white, they just look like the whole table still looks like the whole Christmas table that she had, without every teacup and big plate and everything that she had. So there's ways that you can still honor it.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned you've done a recipe book from your grandma's recipes. Yeah. I know I have friends that have taken their wedding dress or an heirloom wedding dress and turned that into smaller things, instead of expecting someone wants to wear that wedding dress in the form that it is. It could be a christening gown, or
I saw a cute one that had purses. They made the little purses, their wedding purse out of their wedding dress, which I thought was cute.
Yeah, something for the flower girl. I mean, there's lots of ways.
Baptism,
yes.
Outfits.
Yeah.
Handkerchiefs. Like, there's some really cool, if you start looking online for some of that stuff, you will find some people, they make teddy bears, they do all kinds of interesting things with them that is a good repurpose, and two, it can make more than one, right?
Of I was gonna say. You can share that among grandkids or whatnot, to just have a small token. I've seen people take someone's a whole bunch of flannel shirts and turn it into one small stuffed animal for each grandkid. There's lots of ways where you can take a big thing that may feel like these are the legacy items, but make it more manageable than the use that it originally was. Yeah. And you're still honoring that memory, and you're turning it into new memories, and you're, just adding to the story, not forgetting it. Yeah.
Yeah, that purse then, if you did that and made your wedding dress into a purse, now that purse is a story all on its own for your daughter or whatever, and then, she could pass that on or not, whatever, but it's just an interesting, it keeps the story going.
Yeah, absolutely. Tools for preserving stories without all of the stuff. We've talked about it before. There are websites and apps you can do. My family has done Storyworth, and we had a good experience with that. It doesn't have to be an official company. It can just be a journal with story prompts, as you're going through things and saying them out loud. Just writing those and condensing what you remember into a journal is a great way to do that. Making a family photo storage online. If you've got a lot of physical photos and you just want to make them available for whoever wants to go through them, there's different companies where you can have shared storage.
So digitize the photos and then share it with the whole family.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a great idea for reducing it, but not losing that. There are companies that you can take a whole from old photos to slides and things like that, and send it away and have it come back all on a thumb drive or a different version that's much more manageable. If those are important for you to keep, but not wanting to store reels of film or the slide deck. What are those? The round things where all
where the slides
were in.
Yes.
And you just put it in the
projectors. Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot. So just kind of condensing it and making it more shareable and more manageable is what you want to do.
Yeah, so you're thinking about the legacy, and it's not 1,000 things. The legacy can just be summed up in a few things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you're keeping the memory, not the object, and, you're not dishonoring someone's life by taking the most important pieces and remembering them and displaying them and honoring it. You're really doing what you should be doing instead of way too much in a bunch of dusty boxes.
Yeah, that's not honoring it or remembering it in a way if it's just in storage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not being forgotten. The stuff isn't being forgotten, or the person isn't being forgotten. The stuff is just being released. And to be honest, the stuff, if it's just in storage or not being used, somebody else can use it and will want to use it. And so things should be living a life of their own.
Yeah.
And so if they aren't doing that in your storage area, let them go live their life.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're walking with the burden of this stuff and it's weighing on you and frustrating you that it's so much, it is almost tarnishing that legacy and that relationship with the person a little bit, because that frustration is transferring to
guilt.
Your guilt and your memories with that person. Mm-hmm. You're just moving forward with a frustration of all that you have to deal with. So preserve the wonderful memories and release the burden.
And don't feel like it has to be perfect, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It just you won't capture everything about a person, but you'll be able to get enough of that legacy that when you look at those certain things that you think, oh my gosh, I love that thing and they loved that thing and this is that story around that thing, and that just makes me so happy to think about them. You need to be able to look at that thing and feel deep emotional something about that person, or about how it talks about yourself, like what it's saying about you to others. If you don't feel any deep emotion about it and it just looks like a thing, then it's time for it to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So asking yourself, what story do you want the future generations, your children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews, what story do you want them to hear? And you get to choose what carries forward and then release the guilt on what doesn't have to. That's freeing in and of itself to do that.
Yeah.
And if you're carrying the burden and it's just not what you want to be doing, it's okay to just ask, would anyone else like to manage these family items? And if no one steps up, it's okay to release them. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be your burden alone to carry.
Yep.
Yeah, so before we wrap up today, I think we just wanted to take a moment to thank one of our listeners, Donna. She sent us the sweetest email.
Oh, so nice.
We appreciate the feedback so much. She's getting ready to make a big move from Pennsylvania to Tennessee with her husband, and just wrote just the sweetest email that could ever be, telling us how much she appreciated listening to our podcast as she was getting ready for a move that they were doing a little sooner than planned. So she's, got a deadline to work towards. And she just said that, we help her stay grounded and focused. And she most especially loved that we had reminded her to stay dreamy.
I loved that at the end.
Yeah, and that was actually what helped them decide to make the move sooner, to be closer to family, and to go with the flow when plans changed a little bit. So, Donna, we appreciate you. We hope you keep listening, and we hope that we're touching other people in that way. That is most important to us, is just helping people stay dreamy and stay focused and get through it. And as we've said on many episodes, we're right there with you, working through all of this together.
Yep. So if you need anything else, downsizingroadmap.com. Check us out for more information about things. Thank you again, Donna. You made my day. And we'll talk to you all next time.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? It's on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.